Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me. I'm Jill Bloom, group publisher of Walls and Ceilings, and welcome to If Walls Could Talk. It's such an honor to have with me today Jason Wigboldy, who is the Vice President of Business Development at TrueFast. Jason, great to see you, and thanks for joining me.
Jill, great to see you as always as well. So thanks for having me today, and looking forward to the conversation and sharing kind of what's new in the world of walls and building envelopes.
Yes, well, there is a lot going on. And I wanted to start, Jason, by talking a little bit high level as to what's happening with the building envelope and the trends with design and solutions that you are seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny, in my career, 25 years involved in the exterior wall business, it's been a remarkable change in the evolution of how we design walls. It's all about now air, water, thermal, and the building science that goes into that has improved dramatically. So if we kind of rewind back into the kind of the 1990s or so, the concept of using air barriers really became a thing, and different building wraps and different methods of keeping air from coming through your building was utilized. But the problem is that it was almost too airtight and would actually cause other issues as it relates to the inability for walls to dry. So we saw big advancements in air barrier technology. Fast forward to about 2010, and that building science advanced to a point where the requirements for continuous insulation and really the benefits of continuous insulation became more and more known. And so around 2010 is where you start to see the codes updated to include requirements for continuous insulation across a lot of the country. At that time is really kind of the nexus of a massive amount of development and innovation within the wall space, because now you had to incorporate this added layer within your wall assembly that caused you to rethink everything. How do you tie all this together? And for a long time, the first decade or so after the requirements of CI, the industry really struggled with how do we attach the insulation itself over your air barrier? And how do you attach your cladding through that extra layer and still maintain your air and water resistant barrier performance? So all that to say, those added layers made walls much more complex.
Yeah.
And so that's the biggest trend. If I kind of do a really quick recap of the last 25 years, is that added layers of both CI and air barriers now being integrated in our wall systems and the effects that it's had in how we design our walls.
So, Jason, there's so many great things happening when it comes to your products, but there's something special that you have to have that you're doing that has to do with labor savings. What is that?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything we talked about for air, water, thermal, it's a really effective way to address not only the energy performance, but also labor. But for something really cool and really fast for attaching that layer of insulation, we have our new thermal insulation fastening system. Share my screen here to show. This is a fuel cell powered tool that can be used either with masonry pins to shoot insulation into masonry or concrete, as well as a knurled steel pin to shoot insulation into steel studs as well, and wood as well. I should also add to that. This is available, of course, in lots of different pin lengths. You can see on the screen here kind of the assortments, everywhere from 1 inch thin to 6 inch thick, again, in those half-inch increments. The white plastic versions here are assembled with the masonry pins for either masonry, concrete block, or wood. The black plastic, of course, has been assembled with the knurled pin for either steel studs or wood. But talk about a fast way to attach insulation onto any substrate. Press it onto the tool, press that gun in the fastener through the insulation, pull the trigger, walk away, and you're on to the next one. So crazy fast and major labor savings. And we're seeing significant growth here all across the country with this new thermal grip insulation fastening system.
Oh, that's awesome.
You bet. Also worth noting too, as I really think about it, with this simple solution, again, you're addressing not only the labor, but also thermal bridging. We talked earlier about the importance of thermal bridging and how much more scrutinizing the industry is becoming. These are a plastic tube, in essence, and a pin exists just way down at the bottom of that. So there's really nothing steel to transmit energy from one side of that inside the wall to the outside or vice versa. So again, thermal bridging as well is being directly addressed with the design of this fastener. So kind of checks every box from both the design, performance, as well as a labor perspective.
Yeah. So, Jason, I know that there's some really cool new products at TrueFast. What are they? What do we need to know?
Yeah, yep. So we've got a whole new line of products that are all designed to address air, water, and thermal penetration of that air and weather barrier. We'll go through a whole host of these. Talking about all those extra layers, this snapshot here, just a screenshot from our website, starts to show all the different layers a designer needs to consider. They all perform different functions within that wall. But if you look at a common commercial steel stud wall, you might have a layer of exterior gypsum sheathing in there, and more than likely that's going to be added for fire performance. But they also might need a substrate to that's suitable to attach your air and weather barrier. So again, you start to think about how do we attach the gypsum sheathing layer. And then you got the air barrier layer. Could be a building wrap, could be a fluid applied, but you see those layers kind of built up one on top of the other. And then, of course, that layer of continuous insulation comes in. If you think about that assembly, historically using a screw and a washer, and I'll pull up a product image here. If you think about what happens when you drill through with a self-drilling screw through your air barrier that's on top of your surface of gypsum sheathing, it's going to take a half a second or a second for that drill tip to be able to dig through the steel stud or to drill at that steel. Problem is that your threads are also acting as an auger to tear the heck out of your gypsum sheathing as well as your air barrier. And so what happens is, as you see in the left side picture here, you get a very enlarged hole where you've got the potential at every fastener penetration for air and water to migrate through that very barrier responsible for keeping air and water out. So what we've done here, a really simple solution, this is for attaching insulation, is the addition of a polyurethane tube onto the screws and the washers that we've sold for decades. The tube is available in half-inch increments to accommodate for half-inch incremental insulation thicknesses, so 1 inch thin up to 4 inch thick. And that tube is stiff enough to punch through that layer of insulation, but then soft enough to compress and gasket over top of this air barrier layer to effectively seal off any chance of air and water from getting through that particular screw penetration. So if you think individually about, okay, well, it's just one fastener and not a huge deal, but on a typical commercial building, let's say your typical residential grocery store, for example, you might be talking well in excess of 10 to 15,000 screws or anchors required to attach the insulation and to attach the cladding over top of that insulation. And that's where it really starts to add up to making a much bigger deal of these screw penetrations. So kind of philosophically, this is a method that we've developed and patented and tested with all leading OEM manufacturers of insulation and air barriers. And what's really cool about this is that we can then extrapolate this tube seal concept into different cladding attachment solutions. So the next layer of that wall, whether it's brick cavity wall or a rain screen type system or even a lath attachment, I'll show some examples of what we're doing there as well. So for brick anchors, masonry cavity wall, it's a big portion of the commercial market. In fact, probably the largest share, depending on where you are in the country, the largest share of the exterior market. And using that same tube seal concept, we're developing this, in this case, a stiffened polycarbonate tube that is designed to punch through that layer of insulation, through the air barrier and through the gypsum back to that substrate. And by way of the design of this polycarbonate tube, with the wedge shape at the end, that is where we're capable of sealing up the air and weather barrier. So it's pulling a little bit of the air barrier material into that gypsum sheathing or plywood and effectively sealing off at kind of the business end of that anchor. And then on the outside, this, of course, is protruding from the outside, as you see in this assembly picture. The wire tie gets inserted into your brick joints as the mason works, of course, its way up the building. So the wire tie is mechanically connecting that brick veneer back to the structure, transferring the loads, the lateral loads. But because that polycarbonate tube is first off capable of self-sealing air and water, it is also separating the contact of the steel wire from contacting the steel screw, effectively creating a thermal bridge or a thermal break. So you're slowing down the ability for thermal energy to also not transfer quickly between those two different layers of the wall. So air, water, thermal, and structural for brick veneer anchoring, just a very simple, effective solution and example what we're doing in this space. So.
Wow. Yeah, that's really cool. It's amazing what one little thing can make all the difference in the world.
For sure. Yep. I want to share too, if it's okay, one more example of similar applications or adaptations of this tube seal. This is for a ventilated rain screen system. as one example of several different systems now out in the market that are all leveraging this type of tube seal technology. Just a couple of pictures here. This is from a recent project out at Zion National Park. In this case here, the assembly, if you can see, this is actually a mass timber structure. So solid wood walls, you can kind of see in the window opening on the right side, solid CLT or cross-laminated timber. There's a black fluid applied air barrier membrane placed right over that CLT. And then you got 4-inch thick layers of mineral wool, a medium density mineral wool. You can see those thermal dip tube seal fasteners that we've used to attach the mineral wool. And now you can see the hat channels being attached over top. The hat channel itself is cool. There's nothing fundamentally unique about the channel other than the fact it's ventilated, and it's got these pre-punched holes every 1 inch along the length of the channel, which allows us to use the same Grip-Tec tube seal fasteners with the tubes capable of self-sealing. You can see a kind of an action shot here with these tubes being punched through that layer of 4-inch thick mineral wool. Once it bottoms out and compresses on the air barrier, it's going to completely self-seal. And that tube will then be totally sealing up air and water, as well as creating a thermal break from that screw contacting that steel channel. So we're also addressing thermal bridging. And you can kind of see what happens here in this image where that tube is bottomed out, and you can see this has been tightened now effectively.
Oh, yeah.
And you can see that green ring that's separating that steel screw from contacting that hat channel. So again,
well,
just
I
one
would
example.
be happy. Yeah, Jason, I would be happy to go out to Utah and up to Zion National Park just to make sure that you guys did this correctly, exactly the way you're talking about, because it is my favorite place on earth.
It is a gorgeous, it's God's country for sure. It is a beautiful part of the world. And I've had the privilege to go there a couple of times actually with our marketing team and get some cool drone shots. We got a whole series of videos that's going to come out on this particular project. And you can't ask for a better backdrop for sure.
Oh, it's amazing. Yes, no doubt for sure. My house is littered with images of Zion. That's
For
great.
sure.
That's, how exciting to have a project out there.
You bet. You bet. So, yeah, and then that same concept, again, does work in our adhered masonry products as well. I'll quick share one more solution. Obviously, with the walls and ceilings, the audience that we're talking, adhered masonry is a big deal. So for adhered masonry, we've sold, of course, our grip plate washers are used all over the country for lath attachment over top of insulation. But again, now we're adding that same green tube to the assembled grip plate galvanized steel lath washer along with the screw to effectively create the opportunity to seal the screw penetration. So now we can attach lath, whether it's a woven wire mesh or diamond lath or fiberglass lath, doesn't matter, over top of a layer of insulation, over top of that air barrier. That tube then is going to be able to punch through those layers and self-seal way back there at the air and weather barrier from, again, 1 inch thick insulation up to 4 inch thick, anywhere in half-inch incremental thicknesses. So all of your cladding types, whether it's masonry cavity wall, ventilated rain screen systems, adhered masonry like lath for stucco or stone veneer, all of those major cladding types we've addressed with a very, very simple solution being these tube ideas to effectively take care of air, water, and thermal performance issues. So. Okay.
Well, Jason, this is so exciting to see what's happening at TrueFast. I really appreciate the time you spending with me today to inform the industry as to what's going on and all the new things you're doing. But if anybody has any questions, where do they go and how can they find out more?
Yeah, great question. So all this information available on our website. That's the first place I direct you towards www.truefast.com. On that landing page, you'll see kind of redirect to either go towards the roofing side or the wall side of the page. So depending on your interest, go to one page or the other. And of course, our friendly staff based in Grand Rapids, Michigan, is ready and willing to talk, myself included. We are very much a personable company. You're going to get somebody, an actual person to talk to who wants to ask questions on your specific assembly. And we love helping and assisting and designing and providing whatever support we can. So you're not just a number to us as a customer. We really want to dig into the details and provide good design assist as well. So that phone number is area code 616-454-3100. Based in Grand Rapids, Michigan, is our technical team.
I love it. Yes, fellow Michiganders.
Yeah,
so they start at truefast.com and either pick roofing or walls?
That's correct. That's correct. Yep.
Okay.
Also, too, worth noting that we also have CEU course available that goes over all the different performance attributes of this. Obviously non-branded, but that course is available. If you go to that same website, you'll see that listed as well. So 1 hour CEU course for anyone looking for credits or just looking for general education. So that's another fantastic opportunity to learn more. and more in development as well here as we go throughout the year.
I love it. Well, we love geeking out on this topic for sure. So we're excited to know you've got more on your website as well. Well, Jason, thank you again so much. We really appreciate your time. And if anybody has any questions for us, it is wconline.com. And while you're there, make sure you sign up for all our free content. Also follow us on our social media channels so you can stay up to date in all the great interviews we are doing, especially like we are today with Jason. But most importantly, stay safe and healthy. We can't wait to talk to you soon. Thanks again, Jason.
Thanks, Jill. Take care.